Oh, so I get to steal it back.
Taking two.
Okay. Man.
Do you want me to sit over here? Does it matter?
You sit with us.
Okay, okay. Make sure I'm in.
But you're mostly going to be up here. Actually.
Yeah.
You're here throughout.
Good. All right, great. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I'm Rabbi Joe Black, and it is truly an honor to be here. I'll tell you more about me later, but I want to begin by sharing a brand new melody to a very ancient text. The text is an Aramaic piyut, and the words are Yaribon Alam Va'almaya Antu Malka Melech Malchaya, which is basically a song praising God. God is the Lord above and all the world. God is the ruler of all the rulers, and it goes on. And this is a new take on a very old song. Yaribon Alam Ve'almaya Malka Melech Malchaya Ya Ribon Halam Ve'almaya Antu Malka Melech Malchaya Ovad Givurtech Ve'timchaya Shevar Gamach Ole Achavaya Yaribon Alam Ve'almaya Antu Malka Melech Malchaya Yaribon Alam Ve'almaya Antu Malka Melech Malchaya שבחין השדה וצפרה ורמשה לחלה קדישה דברה כל נפשה יא ריבון עולם ועלמיה אנטו מלכה מלך מלכיה Yaribon Alam Ve'almaya Antu Malka Melech Malchaya Antu Malka Melech Malchaya Antu Malka Melech Malchaya.
Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. And Shabbat Shalom to those of you who are joining us from home or from your travels or wherever you may be. I know there are quite a number of you because I've heard from so many of you who are traveling this weekend. What a wonderful way to welcome Shabbat. And thank you to Rabbi Joe Black for being with us. A few words of Jewish geography and Jewish history to welcome Rabbi Black into our midst, because in certain ways, this is a little bit of a reunion.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this. There was a rabbi who served in this temple, Rabbi Earl Stone. Earl Stone, for those of you who don't know, was ordained in New York in 1939 and became a chaplain in the United States military during World War II and the Holocaust. Served in North Africa, on the southern front of Europe, in Italy, and then in continental Europe with the armies of Eisenhower following the invasion of Normandy. Arrived here at the temple and served with Abba Hillel Silver in 1948 as associate rabbi, and served here until 1956. And at that time, he went off to a Temple Emmanuel in Denver, where he served as senior rabbi through the rest of his career. Now, Earl Stone, Rabbi Earl Stone, whom we know as one of the kindest, most wonderful rabbis of that generation, was a pioneer in interfaith relations and reached out to other faiths and other communities when it wasn't yet the fad. It wasn't yet highly spoken of, and went out and built relationships with other communities and eventually became recognized in Denver and became recognized nationally for his interfaith work. And Rabbi Joe Black, who followed Rabbi Steve Foster as senior rabbi of Temple Emmanuel, who followed Rabbi Earl Stone as senior rabbi in Temple Emmanuel in Denver, is now here with us. And what I can say to you, Rabbi Black, and what I say to all of us every Shabbat: welcome home. Welcome home. You see, in one way or another, we're all connected. And the legacy of Temple Emmanuel in Denver is the legacy of the Temple-Tifereth Israel here in Cleveland, Ohio, to remind us the world is a really small place. And so with that, let us light the Shabbat candles. Please join me as we turn to page 3. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light. Amen. And now I would like you to join with me, please, on page 7. Where has this week vanished? Is it lost forever? Will I ever recover anything from it? The joy of life, the unexpected victory, the realized hope, the task accomplished? will I ever be able to banish the memory of pain, the sting of defeat, the heaviness of boredom? On this day, let me keep for a while what must drift away. On this day, let me be free of the burdens that must return. On this day, Shabbat, abide. Together, help me to withdraw for a while from the flight of time, contain the retreat of the hours and days from the gasp of frantic life. Let me learn to pause, if only for this day. Let me find peace on this day. Let me enter into a quiet world this day. On this day, Shabbat, abide. We turn now to page 26 for the Chatzi Kaddish, and I invite us to please rise.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, וילמד יברח יורתי, וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון, ובחיי לכל בית ישראל. בעגלה, בעגלה, ובזמן קריב, וימרו.
אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה. יתברך. יתברך וישתבח, ויפריס רומן ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה, ויתהלל שמי דקודשה. ברכו.
לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה.
תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמה,
וימרו.
אמן.
I'm going to ask you to be seated just for a moment. So this is my 36th year in the rabbinate, which is just amazing to me. And before I was in Denver, I served as a rabbi in Albuquerque, New Mexico for 14 years, which was an incredible gift. I loved being in New Mexico. And before that, I was in Minneapolis, Minnesota, which I also loved. Although it was a lot colder in Minneapolis. So I moved from Albuquerque to Minneapolis, and I expected this incredible confluence of cultures coming together. The idea that New Mexico is a community of, there's Hispanic, there's Native American, and there's everybody else, which is what they called Anglo. And I was expecting all kinds of ways that we could interact, but the truth is each community kind of stayed in their own little pocket where they were comfortable, except there were a couple things that I noticed after a while that are very important. One is that artistically and theologically, we shared so much together, even if we didn't talk about it. If you've ever seen a Navajo blanket or a Navajo pot, you'll notice that there oftentimes in a blanket there is one thread that is deliberately woven out of place. And there's a pot, there might be a circle that isn't quite closed. And the Navajo used to say, not only Navajo, but most of the Pueblo Indians in New Mexico, would say the Native American communities, would say, we can't create something perfect because only God can create something perfect. Everything is incomplete, which is such a Jewish idea. Do me a favor, turn if you would in your prayer books to page 110. After the Baruch Hu, in the evening service, we do the Ma'ariv Aravim, but in the morning service, we do the Yotzer Or. And these are both prayers about light. And if you look in the middle of the page, it says in the Hebrew, it says, Baruch atah Yotzer Or v'choshech, Hameir la'aretz v'la'darim ha'lecha b'rahamim. And then it goes, uvtuvo, in God's goodness, the fourth line in the English, you daily renew creation. That creation is constantly in a process of being recreated. It's a very Jewish idea as well, that the world is not completed ever. Only God can make something complete. We can try. And so I wrote this song shortly after moving to New Mexico many years ago. It was the title of a CD I recorded called Leave a Little Bit Undone. And you'll hear the text from the Ma'ariv, from the Yotzer, or in it. In the pueblos of northern New Mexico, artists show their wares, sitting on their blankets with their baskets and their bows on display in the pure desert air. Look very closely, you will see a tiny flaw in their perfect symmetry. Nothing that we do is ever finished. We are all diminished by our own mortality. So whatever you do, leave a little bit undone. Don't think that you're the only one to bear the heavy load. Wherever you go, never journey to the end. There's always another bend further down the road. Further down the road. And in Machane Yehuda, in Jerusalem, and every vendor's stall. Look very closely, you can see it there, high on the eastern wall. All the painters left the spot of their plaster, as if to say, I am not the master, I cannot complete this task until my feet lie firm on holy ground. So whatever you do, leave a little bit undone. Don't think that you're the only one to bear the heavy load. Wherever you go, never journey to the end. There's always another bend further down the road. Further down the road. מחדש בכל יום תמיד מעשה וראשית. מחדש בכל יום תמיד מעשה וראשית. And the world becomes renewed each day with the rising sun. And nothing's ever finished, nothing's ever done. So whatever you do, leave a little bit undone. Don't think that you're the only one to bear the heavy load. Wherever you go, never journey to the end. There's always another bend further down the road. Always another bend. Leave a little bit undone. Leave a little bit undone. Leave a little bit undone. Leave a little bit.
In the spirit of leaving a little bit undone, please turn with me to page 33. Please join me at the bottom of the page. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol. All these things your Torah gives to us. And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Together, hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever. Please join us as we chant the Ve'ahavta.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Adonai Elohechem Emet. And on page 39, again, please join me. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together.
So there's a midrash about someone who's mentioned just a couple times in the Torah, but he has a very important place, and his name is Nachshon ben Aminadav. Anybody here know anything about Nachshon ben Aminadav? Good. I'll teach you. So Nachshon was a prince of Israel, we're told, and that when all the Israelites stood on the shores of the Red Sea about to cross, Pharaoh's army started coming behind them. And they got scared and they started to weep and wail and scream and yell, except for one person whose name was Nachshon ben Aminadav. And Nachshon started walking in the water, and at this time Moses was up on the rock with his staff, watching what was going on, and he took his staff and he spread it out over the water, and nothing happened. He tried standing over here. He took his staff, he spread it out over the water, and nothing happened. And the people were moaning and groaning and weeping and wailing, except for Nachshon ben Aminadav, who kept on walking into the water. And I tell this, I can make this a very long story. We don't have time for that. But basically what happened is he walked until the water got up to his chin, up to his mouth, up to his nose, and he was walking underwater. And he cried out, Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, who is like you, God, among all the gods that are worshipped, mi kamocha. And at that moment, the sea split in two. So I wrote this song many, many years ago on a children's album, actually. But I love singing it, so I got a chance to. I'm going to. You can follow along with the words if you want, with that very old picture of me. When the children of Israel fled from slavery, they followed their leader, Moses, to the sea, and they looked out across. They shouted with glee. On the other side there was liberty. But then someone looked back and let out a shout. A huge cloud of dust was billowing about. Pharaoh and his army, they were coming up fast. Well, those shouts of joy, you know, they didn't last till Nachshon. He walked into the water alone. Nachshon. They thought he'd sink to the bottom like a stone. But you know he didn't quit. He walked right into it. He knew that God would make the Red Sea split. Nachshon. Now when that band of former slaves saw their enemy so close, they got real scared like they'd just seen a ghost. And they cried out to God, save us if you please. We're tired of building pyramids, we want to be free. Where are we here now? I need the words here. It's been a long time. All right. There we go. Okay. But God told Moses to stretch out his staff. The old Red Sea was split in two separate halves. But before Moses could do what he was told, Nachshon was in the water, splashing in the cold. Nachshon, you can sing along. Nachshon, he walked into the water alone. Nachshon, Nachshon, they thought he'd sink to the bottom like a stone. But you know he didn't quit, he walked right into it. He knew that God would make the Red Sea split. Nachshon, you know he walked into the sea, right up to his knee. And when the water got to his thigh, he didn't bat an eye. But when the water got to his back, he thought he'd have a heart attack. But he kept on plunging in until the water got to his chin. Repeat after me. He cried out, Micha mocha. You can do better than that. He cried out, Micha mocha. Ba'elim Adonai. Micha mocha. Nehedar b'kodesh. Nachshon cried out from the depths of his soul. The Red Sea started to rock and roll. Well, it split down the middle like it was shifting gears, and the children of Israel started to cheer. And all of the people, well, they followed Nachshon in. And as they were crossing, don't you know that they started to sing? Nachshon, Nachshon, he walked into the water alone. Nachshon, Nachshon, they thought he'd sink to the bottom like a stone. But you know he didn't quit, he walked right into it. He knew that God would make the Red Sea split. Knew that God would make the Red Sea split. Knew that God would make the Red Sea split. Nachshon. That's my Micha Mocha song.
Shabbat Shalom. My name is Rabbi Eldadoon. I am your finally installed rabbi.
Zatov.
We continue the service on page 43. That there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch ata Adonai, הפורס סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים.
Turn, if you would, to Yismechu, which is on page 44. Thank you. This is a singable chorus, so I hope you join with me. ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת. ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת. וקורא עונג וקורא עונג ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת. המקדשי מקדשי שביעי כולם ישבעו ויתן ומטובך ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת. ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת. וקורא עונג וקורא עונג ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת. והשביעי רצית בו רצית בו וכי פגשנו חמדת ימים, אותו קראת זכר למעשה בראשית. ישמחו במלכותה שומרי שבת, ישמחו במלכותה שומרי שבת. וקורא עונג, וקורא עונג, ישמחו במלכותה שומרי שבת, ישמחו במלכותה שומרי שבת, שומרי שבת.
I invite you to please rise for the Amidah found on page 46.
Adonai Sifatai Tiftan Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו ואהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם, בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה. רב להושיע, מורי הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני העפר. כמוך בגבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל.
אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע. You are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God. Baruch ata Adonai ha'el hakadosh. Amen. You may be seated. We continue on page 60.
Ki
This is the first Shabbat in the month of Elul, which for rabbis, cantors, cantoral soloists, brings a pit in our stomach. Because it means that in 4 weeks it'll be Rosh Hashanah. On September 6th, 28 years ago, it was Rosh Hashanah. It was Labor Day also. And that day my son Ethan was born on Labor Day, on Rosh Hashanah, and on his due date. So for the first time, and the only time, I was not at services on Rosh Hashanah. I was in the hospital with my wife as Ethan was born. But that Yom Kippur, man, whew. I looked out at the congregation, and I remember feeling so grateful, so amazed, so exhausted. And just after Yom Kippur, I wrote this piece of music. And as we're in Elul, it's time for us to focus on the Yamim Noraim, the high holidays. So the text that I chose was the Ne'ilah prayer at the very end, just before we close the ark on Yom Kippur, as the sun is setting. The words are, El Nora Alila Hamselanu Mechila Bishat HaNe'ilah. Awesome God on high, grant us pardon during this hour of Ne'ilah. And I remembered the words of a Hasidic sage that asked the question, where is God? And the answer is, whenever you let God in. And so our task during this month of Elul is to find God within ourselves and our souls, those around us, as we do the important work of Cheshbon HaNefesh, of taking accounting of this past year and of our souls. And so this is called Let God In. El Nora Alila Hamselanu Mechila Bishat HaNe'ilah. There's a hole in the sky, growing bigger every day. Looks like an eye gazing sadly down our way. Try to ignore it, it just won't go away. Tears falling down like the acid rain. There's a hole deep inside. So many here today try to ignore it, but it just won't go away. So we fill it up with our monies and desire, measuring our worth with what we can acquire. Only way to patch it is to catch it from within. Tell me, where is God? Whenever we let God in. Where is God? Oh, whenever we let God in. You can't find God in the classroom, a book that you take from the shelf. You can't find God on a mountaintop. You can only find God in yourself. Nowhere to look and no place to find. If your final destination is your peace of mind, no, it's not a matter of place, it's time. You gotta change the where to when. Where is God? Whenever we let God in. Answer me. Where is God? Whenever we let God in. El nora lila, el nora lila, anselanu yechila, bishat haneila. Where is God whenever we let God in? Where is God whenever we let God in? Whenever we let God in. Let God in. Okay, so Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Retune my guitar now. So I am so excited to be here for many reasons. Certainly the connection with Rabbi Stone is remarkable, but there's another connection that I don't think I even told you, Jonathan. My mother was born in 1926 in Leipzig, Germany. In 1938, November 9th, 1938, Kristallnacht happened. And in December of 1938, my mother and her parents, she was an only child, left Germany and came to Cleveland. And she grew up here, and she went to Case Western Reserve University. And I've only been, this is only my second time to Cleveland. First time I did some music here many, many, many years ago when I was touring a lot. I don't do this very often. I have a large congregation now, and so it's a real joy for me to be able to do this. And thank you again, Rabbi, for allowing me to do this. But I plan on going and visiting her old house. I have the address somewhere. It's in Cleveland proper. I think it's near the Telshe Yeshiva, actually. But I'm looking forward to seeing that house. But at any rate, so I'm going to sing a song about my mother in a little bit, but I want to share some new music. I just had a sabbatical this past year, and I recorded actually 2 albums of music. It's been 18 years since I last recorded. One is a Jewish album, and one is not a Jewish album at all. But I'm not going to sing now. I'm going to sing the Jewish stuff because it's Shabbos tonight. So this is a song about a story that I heard many years ago about a cathedral in Italy in a town called Perugia. Has anybody been to Perugia? What's it famous for? Chocolate. It's famous for chocolate, right? The Baci Perugina chocolates are made in Perugia, but it's famous for something else, which is reflected in the Baci Perugina chocolates. There's a beautiful Duomo, a domed cathedral in Perugia. It's 600 years old, at least. And about 50 years ago, there was an earthquake near Perugia that damaged the roof of the Duomo of the cathedral. And the workmen went up to fix it, and while they were up there, they saw something that no one had seen for 600 years. You see, the original artisans who carved the dome, the beams that supported the dome, carved these incredible, beautiful sculptures. Beautiful, beautiful carvings, but they pointed up, so only God could see them. I love that image. Their faith didn't have to be broadcast. It didn't have to be on display. They did something purely for the sake of God. And in the world that we're in right now, when so much of faith is being used as a weapon, we need to know that. So these are 3 stories. The first one I just told you, and there's 2 more. All of them are true stories. And there is a singable chorus that you're going to sing with me. You are going to sing with me. I'll help you, I promise. It goes like this. If you stand in the center of the Duomo of Perugia, cast your eyes up soaring towards the heights. Massive wooden beams that support that dazzling ceiling hide a secret that is hidden from our sight. Some common unknown laborer in awe of his creator soft an offering of praise to God above, pointing skyward towards the heavens like a prayer that ascends with humility, passion and love. Your part goes like this. Faith is not a flag you can wave. Faith is not a soul you can save. When our earthly days are done and we face the setting sun, we give thanks not for what we had, but what we gave. For faith is not a flag you can wave. It'll come around again. I'll help you with the words. I promise. There's a woman that I know who never likes to show the fact she's struggling with each breath she takes. Her days are filled with meaning as she stares up at the ceiling and longs to find a way to ease her aches. But no matter how her body lets her down, no matter the threshold of her pain, she tries to give thanks to those around her. Oh, she's giving thanks for each day she wakes again. Because faith is not a flag you can wave. Faith is not a soul you can save. Faith is not a soul you can save. When our earthly days are done, when our earthly days are done and we face the setting sun, we give thanks not for what we had, but what we gave. For faith is not a flag you can wave. Yes, each day we build our masterpiece, the visions of our dreams, the answer to our own caprice. It's never what it seems, it's carved above the beams. What a gorgeous ceiling. And standing in the center of an overcrowded classroom in a part of town that knows no other way, he opens doors of learning in the minds of his students and helps them find the proper words to say. And he knows the odds against him and that no one will defend him, but he never will give in to his despair. He believes in what he's doing and the souls he's grooming like a sculptor, climbing high up in the air. Faith is not a flag. Faith is not a flag you can wave. Not a soul you can save. Faith is not a soul you can save. Earthly days. When our earthly days are done and we face the setting sun, we give thanks not for what we had, but what we gave. Oh, faith is not a flag you can wave. Do that again with me. Faith is not a flag you can wave, not a soul. Faith is not a soul you can save. When our earthly days are done and we face the setting sun, we give thanks not for what we had, but what we gave. Oh, faith is not a flag you can wave. Faith is not a flag you can wave. Faith is not a flag you can wave. Okay, so I see one of my roles both as a rabbi and as a musician to bring new meaning and joy to ancient texts. So here's a new version of a melody. It's not a melody, it's a new melody. But the text is what we sing at Havdalah. We sing it on Pesach. When we welcome Elijah the prophet into our lives. We say Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi. Eliyahu the prophet, Eliyahu the Gileadite. Bring us Mashiach ben David, the Messiah, the son of David. But there are new words that were also written to this by Rabbi Leil Gal Brenner, who said, Miriam haniviyah, oz v'zimra biyada. Miriam, the prophet, strength and song are in her hand. Miriam tirkod itanu lahagdil zimrat olam. Miriam will dance with us to bring up the song of the world. Miriam tirkod itanu letakenet ha'olam. Miriam will dance with us to repair the world. Bimhera b'yameinu. In our day, in our time, she will bring us the waters of deliverance. So this is a reggae version. Of course, you have to have a reggae version of something, don't you? It goes like this. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi, Bimhera Biyamenu, Yavo Eleinu, Im Mashiach ben David, O Im Mashiach ben David, oh, Miriam HaNeviah, Oz v'zimra biyada. Miriam tirkod itanu lehagdir zimrat olam. Miriam tirkod itanu letaken et ha'olam. Bimhera biyamenu oh, Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi. Miriam tirkod itanu letaken et ha'olam. Bimhera b'yameinu oditivienu et me ha'yeshua. Oh, Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Miriam HaNiviyah, Oz v'zimra biyada, Im Mashiach ben David. So a few years ago, I wrote a book, and it's a book of limericks. One limerick for every Torah portion. It's called There Once Was a Man from Canaan, the 5 Books of Limerick. I had a lot of fun with it. It was actually a challenge by my cantor at the time, who said, I bet you can't do it, which don't ever say that to me. So I'm going to share just a couple of them with you. The very beginning, Breshit. Just take a bite, said the snake. Who cares if a rule you might break? The fruit that you'll eat is so juicy and sweet. Think of the pies you could bake. There's that one. Mama? You want Tazria Mitzorah? All right. She asked me to do Tazria Mitzorah. That's actually one of my favorite ones. Tazria Mitzorah is the Torah portion about leprosy and and skin affliction. It's the dread of every bar mitzvah boy. So here's Tazria. If your skin is scaly and sore, and you're oozing with grossness and gore, you'll be labor unclean till the priest intervenes and dunks you in water that's pure. And I'll do one more and then we'll stop. Mitzorah, I'll do Mitzorah too. When studying Parshat Mitzorah, you learn to never ignore a peculiar emission or painful condition that's explained in detail in the Torah. So there you have that one. All right, I'll stop with the limericks. So this is a song that I wrote. I wrote it during COVID, actually. My mother passed away 5 years ago now. And she, as I explained earlier, she and her parents fled Nazi Germany right after Kristallnacht, and while they were safe, the memory of that moment never left her and haunted her entire life. It wasn't until she had a stroke at the age of 94 that she found happiness, because she forgot. So it was a bit of a blessing. And this is a song I wrote recently. I couldn't have written this song until this last year, just I wasn't ready. It goes like this. She was a refugee with glass in her shoes, 12 years old, scared and confused, peeking through the curtains at American Jews who never walked in fear. The dread that lived within her bones was birthed on ancient cobblestones, repossessed abandoned homes, the salty taste of tears. Dreams that kept her up at night were vague and undefined. Boulevards where yellow stars march lockstep in straight line. Consonants and syllables she had left behind. Smoke that never clears, the salty taste of tears. She minded all her P's and Q's, as if compliance could undo the last 2,000 years. She cataloged and turned the pages, a lifetime lived in different stages, learning lessons of the ages, the salty taste of tears. Dreams that kept her up at night were vague and undefined. Boulevards where yellow stars march lockstep in straight lines. Consonants and syllables she had left behind. Smoke that never clears, the salty taste of tears. She lived with dread as if someday fragile peace might go away. She knew God's grace just couldn't stay. It always disappears. And all this time I've tried to see, understand her legacy. She is now bequeathed to me with the salty taste of tears. She was a refugee with glass in her shoes, 12 years old, scared and confused, peeking through the curtains at American Jews who never walked in fear. That's a hard one to sing. How's our time? Oh, we have plenty. Good. All right, let me try this one. About 5 years ago, I was part of a remarkable collaboration with contemporary Jewish artists. We put together an album of music for social justice. music, because a lot of the same old songs that we've been singing at Jewish summer camps and, just are old. And so we created, there was a call, and I submitted a song that I co-wrote with my fellow partner at Temple Emmanuel, Steve Brodsky, who is our director of music and our artist in residence. And I used the text that was attributed to Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel. Now, Dr. Heschel marked with Dr. Martin Luther King in Selma. And when he marched with Dr. King, it was a Shabbat morning. And they said to him, Rabbi, he was a rabbi, you're marching on Shabbat morning. Shouldn't you be in synagogue praying? And Dr. Heschel said, when I marched with Dr. King, I was praying with my feet. And that is the title. Where is my capo? Here it is. That is the title of the song. Let us gather all together in the cold and in the heat. Make a vow that history's cruel lessons won't repeat. We will not stand idly by, watch our values die. When we heed the call for justice, we are praying with our feet. Hear our footsteps on the pavement, let them echo in the streets. Feel the longing in our hearts, growing stronger with each beat. Oh, it's time to take a stand. We're marching hand in hand. When we heed the call for justice, we are praying with our feet. From the California coast to Selma's cruel concrete, from the towers of New York City to the fields of Kansas wheat, wherever all are divided by justice that's one-sided. When our voices rise in protest, we are praying with our feet. Hear our footsteps on the pavement, let them go in the street. Feel a longing in our heart, growing stronger with each beat. Oh, it's time to take a stand. We're marching hand in hand. When our voices rise in protest, we are praying with our feet. For the poor, the tired, the huddled masses, yearning to breathe free. Homeless and the helpless, renegades and refugees. Soldiers coming home to their loved ones, oh so sweet. They all march side by side when they're praying with their feet. In the classroom, in the courtroom, the executive suite. Healing of our world awaits, our task is incomplete. Oh, our work we may not finish, but our passion won't diminish. When we work for freedom's promise, we are praying with our feet. Hear our footsteps on the pavement, let them echo in the street. Feel the longing in our heart, growing stronger with each beat. Oh, it's time to take a stand. We're marching hand in hand. When we work for freedom's promise, we are praying with our feet. Hear our footsteps on the pavement, let them echo in the street. Feel the longing in our heart, growing stronger with each beat. Oh, it's time to take a stand. We're marching hand in hand. When we work for freedom's promise, we are praying with our feet. And when our voices rise in protest, we are praying with our feet. And when we heed the call for justice, we are praying with our feet. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom. There is this rabbi from Denver whom we will remember forever. He played his guitar and took us quite far. We thank you for this heavenly endeavor. It's not quite what I wanted, but thanks so much. We appreciate your presence here with us. So we pause now for moments in which we take in our hearts those members of our families and circle of friends who are ailing of body, of mind, or of spirit. We remember especially on this occasion Linda Greenspan, Amelia Hegarty, Maddie Jefferson, Eudice Cohn, Richard Moore, Betty Pickus, Rob Platt, Robert Sanders, and Bob Shippey. As my hand passes over your section of the congregation, if you would like to mention out loud those about whom you are thinking, we will offer our prayers along with yours for their return to full health. Let's join together. You can find the words on page 253 for the Mishaberach. We turn now in our prayer books to page 290 as we prepare for the recitation of the mourner's Kaddish. It is a fearful thing to love what death can touch, a fearful thing to love, to hope, to dream, to be and oh, to lose. A thing for fools this, and a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me, your laugh once lifted me, your word was gift to me. To remember this brings a painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing, to love what death has touched. We think now of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. We think especially of those members of our congregational family whom we lost during this past week: Judith Allgaier, Mylon Hawkins, James Sampliner, MD. And we think as well of those who have been laid to rest during the past 30 days: Sylvia Elizabeth Wald, Yaakov Tzur, Sandra Loveman Crystal, Rabbi Frederick A. Eisenberg, Marilyn Joan Berman, Goldie Fishman, Joel Matthew Coslin, and Joyce Serrano. And we take into our hearts those individuals whose yahrzeits occur at this time. Mabel L. Amster, Arthur D. Arnson, Sheldon Skip Baumel, Roger A. Burkew, Anna Z. Bernan, Jewel M. Bernstein, Evelyn H. Brook, Edward A. Cazares, Mary Kaliski Cohn, Abe R. Cohn, Dr. Harold G. Curtis, Ruth Alliance Davidson, George Dorsey, Sophia Dubin, Samuel D. Eisenstark, Florence Grubel Silver Fleischer, Minnie Frankenstein, Malvina Freed, Alvin Friedman, Etta Sands Friedman, Catherine Glenberg, Benjamin R. Goldman, Movitz Goodman, Bertha Harriet Gordon, Harry S. Heiner, Dr. Herman Koppel Hellerstein, Dr. Mary Feil Hellerstein, Stella Hollander, Dr. Daniel A. Hipsch, Lillian P. Koblitz, Henrietta Koppelman, Ruth Mallory Covell, Dr. David D. Krongold, Helen E. Lazar, Fanny Leitner, Sarah Levin, Adolf Liebenthal, Bert W. Marks, Martin A. Marks, Saul M. Marks, Samuel Melman, Esther Zwick Morris, Samuel Myers, Harriet Newman Perlin, Beth Oppenheim, Florence Ralnick, Dr. Marcus Rosenwasser, Fred D. Rovner, June L. Sabroff, Melvin Sachs, Sigmund J. Schwenger, Ira Harvey Sherman, Alex Smith, Lillian Blackman Smith, Shirley Silverman Smith, Max E. Spitz, Alice Brezin Stovsky, Dr. Benjamin B. Teitelbaum, Ruth Vinney, William Wirtschafter, Emmanuel Zwick. If anyone would like to make mention of a loved one or a friend whose name has not just now been read, please take this opportunity to do so. Zichronam livracha, may their memories ever be our blessing. We've cultivated a custom in our congregation, as many of you know, to have those who are observing the loss of a loved one, either a Shiva period, a Shloshim, or the anniversary of the death of a loved one. I want to say just a minute about this, that this gives our congregation, our community, an opportunity to recognize those who are experiencing a loss as they might stand when I ask them to do so. The point here is to be able to reach out to those whom we have observed standing and offer them a hand, offer them a word, which has a great deal of meaning and comfort for those who are experiencing losses at this point. I want to invite those who are experiencing the Shiva period, the first 7 days after the death of a loved one, if you wish to please rise. Those who are observing the Shloshim period, the first 30 days after the death of a loved one, to please rise. And those who are observing the Yahrzeit, the anniversary of the death of a loved one, if you wish, please rise. And now as a caring congregation, we all rise as together we sanctify the name of our God with the words of the Kaddish found in our prayer books on page 294. As we say together, Yit Gadal v'Yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah, v'Alma Divrach Chirutei v'Yamlik Malchutei, v'Chayichon v'Yomeichon v'Chayedechol Beit Yisrael, v'Agalav Izman Kari v'Yamru Amen, Yehei Shemei Rabbah mivarach le'olam olamei elmaya, Yit Barach v'Yishtabach v'Yit Pa'ar v'Yit Romam v'Yit Naseh, V'yit hadar, v'yit halei, v'yit halal, shmei dekudisha barichu. Amin kol birchata v'shirata, Tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiram bi'alma v'yamru amen. Yehei shalom araba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yamru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yamru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort all the bereaved among us, and let us say together, Amen. You may be seated. I don't know about you. There are days when I experience a whole range of emotions, and I sometimes feel buffeted by the more intense ones. And at some point during those days, I'm looking for a moment of calm when I can step back from the cauldron of activities in which I'm engaged and take a moment to reflect upon the blessings that throughout are never far from me. So I suggest at these Shehechianu moments, which we're now experiencing, that we pause for a moment, close our eyes, and try to focus on those blessings which give our life such purpose, such meaning, and such direction. Let's join together in the singing of the Shehechianu. We read in Psalm 104 that wine gladdens the human heart. Whenever I think about this line and then think about Psalm 104, I think of a comment made by, I believe, Gustav Hamann, who was one of the founders of German Romanticism, that it would reward the learning of Hebrew for 10 years to be able to read this psalm in the original. Wine gladdens the human heart. Please join with me in the singing of the Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu. B'shabbat kodsho, b'yahava u'b'ratzon, inchilanu. Zikaron lema'aseh bereishit, ki hu yom tehillah lemikroei kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen.
Chaim. And now the blessing over our bounty.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam,
And we're going to conclude with the singing of
Adon Olam.
Olam.
A new melody, but Adon Olam. So again, it's been such a joy for me to be with you tonight. Turn in your prayer books. What page is Adon Olam? You know, everything we do is now on screen, so we hardly ever do it anymore. Prayer book. I feel bad. Here it is. Page 321. Now, we think of Adon Olam as, there's so many different melodies for Adon Olam. This is a brand new one. Just what the world needs is another new melody for Adon Olam. Please rise while it's kind of a samba. Adon Olam asher malach בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא בחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא, ואחרי ככלות הכל, לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה, והוא הווה, והוא יהיה בתפארה. אדון עולם אשר מלך, בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא בחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא, והוא אחד ואין שני, להמשילו להכבירה, בלי ראשית, בלי תכלית, ולא העוז והמשרה. אדון עולם אשר מלך, בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא בחפצו כל, אזי מלך של last verse, בידו אפקיד רוחי, ותשן ואירה, ועם רוחי גביעתי, אדוני לי ולא אירה. last chance, אדון עולם אשר מלך, בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא בחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. אדון עולם, אדון עולם, אדון עולם.
For the final blessing, we want to congratulate Erica and Scott Wilkoff for celebrating a significant anniversary. 20,
Mazel tov.
21,
Even better.
a multiple of 7. Adonai oz le'amo yitain, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. May the Lord give strength to God's people. May the Lord bless all of God's peoples with the blessings of shalom, of peace. And thank you so much again to Rabbi.
Honor, my honor.
Shabbat shalom.
Shalom. Shabbat shalom. Thank you.
That was great. When did you start singing and playing?